Hi, my name's Kurt Mercadante, and I'm a husband, father, speaker, trainer, and disruptive entrepreneur whose mission is to save the world by helping individuals fight for lives of freedom and fulfillment. And that's what this show is about. We're here to help you fight apathy and conformity in your life. We're here to interview and tell the stories of individuals around the world who are helping others live lives of freedom and fulfillment as well. This is the Freedom Club Podcast, and we're grateful you're here. And welcome to the Freedom Club Podcast. I'm your host, Kurt Mercadante, your very grateful host. Thank you so much for being here and part of the thousands of freedom fighters around the globe who listen to our podcast on a regular basis. Now, there's no fee for any of the content I put out there, much less this podcast, this live show. The only voluntary fee I ask from you is if you like what you hear, if you like what you see, if you like what you watch on a regular basis, or today, if this is your first time watching or listening, please don't be hesitant to share this video, to share the podcast with your friends, family, colleagues on your social media channels, or head to iTunes, subscribe, and maybe give us a positive rating and review. Those are like currency to us, and they allow us to continue to bring our message of freedom and fulfillment around the globe. Now, it is Independence Day week here in the US of A, and so, of course, there's a lot of talk about freedom. Not only what does freedom mean to you as an individual, but what are the greatest threats to freedom? And people get worked up on social media about what they see as the greatest threats to freedom. Oh, it's Donald or it's Bernie. It's Colin Kaepernick and it's Nike, or it's the people who don't like what Colin Kaepernick and Nike are doing. It's the people on this side or that side of whatever debate is currently raging in the country, in the media, or social media. Well, I'm here to tell you none of those things are the greatest threats to freedom. The two greatest threats to freedom are the same as the two greatest threats to the future of humanity, and those are apathy and conformity. Now, if you regularly listen to the podcast or watch my videos or read anything I write, you know that I've said this before. Apathy and conformity are two of the greatest threats to human existence. Now, when I say apathy, I don't just mean, you may be thinking, well, I'm not apathetic. I get worked up on an issue and I post it all over social media. That doesn't necessarily mean you're not apathetic. Have you thought through the issue? Have you asked yourself why? Or do you only have a position on that issue, or what you think is a position on that issue because the majority of your Facebook friends thought that, because your favorite news-ertainment host on Fox News or MSNBC taught you to think that way? That's conformity, and that's where apathy and conformity come together. Now, this is a topic for a podcast I'm going to do next week that's longer, but it's apathy and conformity that can attack every part of freedom in your life. Now, there are 5 pillars of living the freedom lifestyle. Maybe you've heard me talk about them before. The first pillar is superpowers. Amplifying your strengths, finding out what your God-given talents were, investing in them, turning them into strengths, then combining those strengths with your knowledge, your skills, your passion, your experience, what you love to do, turning them into superpowers and spending as much of your time as possible in that superpower zone. The second pillar is vision, having that clearly defined vision for your life that pairs your purpose for living with the impact you want to live. The third pillar is alignment, because work-life balance is total bullshit, right? Instead of walking that tightrope of life, trying not to fall down and die, that's no way to live. Align the 3 facets of your life: family, self, and work. The fourth pillar is outcomes, which I'm going to get to in a second. And the fifth pillar is flow. That's the cumulative effect of the first 4 pillars. They combine to get you in a state of flow every day. A lot of the hustle and grind porn hucksters out there will tell you grinding is the key. No, the key is getting in a state of flow where you're more efficient, where things come more easily to you, where at the end of the day, you don't feel beat up. You feel like things were in the flow, like you actually accomplished something. Which brings us to that 4th pillar of outcomes. You see, in order to live the freedom lifestyle, you have to be truly productive. And to be truly productive, you have to live what I call a radically outcomes-focused life. You take that vision that you have for your life and you reverse engineer it so that every year, every month, every week, every day, you know those outcomes you need to achieve, just 3, to win the day, win the week, win the month, win the year. Now, to do that, you have to be intentional. You can't be apathetic about the course of your life. You have to be intentional enough to know what you want. You have to be intentional enough to know how the hell do I want to spend my day. You have to be intentional enough to set those outcomes and live them. Because you set those outcomes and you find the straightest, shortest, simplest route to those outcomes. That's true productivity. A lot of people think productivity means just getting more shit done. A lot of you on LinkedIn took the 5 a.m. challenge, and I saw pictures of you at, 5:15, you were in the coffee shop and you say, yeah, I'm already working. And then you post a picture at 7 at night and you're still working and you call that productive. That's not productivity. When I ask you, what did you achieve today? You say, oh, I was so productive. I got 25 to-dos done. I got my entire task list of 30 things done. No, you're kidding yourself. That's not productivity. That's just getting more shit done. It's filling your day and clogging your day with inputs. Now let's take this back to apathy and conformity. Earlier this week, I run a lot of programs, and a major part of my program is productivity, right? One of the pillars is becoming radically outcomes focused. Every of the pillars combines to make you more productive, truly productive. And so someone earlier this week, I'm actually having a productivity superhero accelerator that launches August, and it's all about being truly productive. Well, someone applied for that accelerator, and I'm not picking on this specific person only because this happens time and again. They applied, they filled out the application. They talked about all their challenges and pain points, how they feel overwhelmed, they feel frustrated, they feel busy, but they don't feel productive. They're not getting any closer to their outcomes, and maybe they haven't even defined those outcomes. We tried several times to get in touch with this person to no avail. Finally, that person emailed back and said, oh my gosh, I'll get to it maybe next week. Between work and the kids, my hobby, I can't get to it. Now, maybe your irony alert is going off as much as mine, but someone is too busy to even think about and consider a program that will make them less busy, that will empower them to be less busy. This, my friends, is what I call being part of the victim society. And I know some of you out there hate when I use that term, and maybe you're someone who's getting your boxers, your briefs, your panties in a bunch because I say victim society. Oh, how could he do that? He's so mean. And if that's you, if that's what you're saying in your head right now, then maybe you're part of the victim society and you're proving me correct. Scroll on, okay? But the bottom line is it's very easy to blame other things, to make excuses, to think busy is something that happens to me. Because blame is a convenient way to exonerate ourselves from the deliberate choices we make. Oh, I can't get to that. I know I need to be less busy and more productive, but I can't even get to that program because of work and my kids. Listen, I don't say this as someone who hasn't done it, who doesn't practice what I preach, like a lot of coaches and trainers out there and influencers, so-called influencers. At one point, I was running 3 very profitable businesses. We have 4 kids. I was spending weekdays at the beach with my kids. We homeschool our kids. I was living the life I wanted to live. Now, you can't do all those things unless you are intentional. Now, I could have said there's no way that it could happen. Life is just too busy. Oh my gosh, three companies I'm running, my kids, all this stuff. Life is just something that happens to me. My friends, there are 2 types of people in this world. There are people who accept a lifestyle by default. There are people who accept whatever life throws at them. And there are other types of people who realize they're going to design their life. There are people who decide to impose their will on life instead of allowing life to impose itself on them. And if you are someone who just accepts that you have to live a lifestyle by default, that's what I mean when I talk about apathy. If you've given up on trying to use your human ability, one of the most evil things in the world is to not use the intellectual firepower with which you were born to be intentional, to not be apathetic, to be yourself and not be conformist. Because conformity comes in. I talked about inputs and outcomes. A lot of people claim they're busy and overwhelmed because they're filling their day with bullshit inputs. Those things that when I ask you why you're doing them, you say, well, some expert said I was supposed to do them. That's the way it's always been done. I read an article on that. Yada, 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 yada. That's being conformist, not thinking for yourself. Again, not using that intellectual firepower and being intentional, defining your key outcomes, reverse engineering them to find the straightest, shortest, simplest route to those outcomes and traveling it every day. That is true productivity. But if you think that busy is something that happens to you, if you think that you are a victim of busy, then you're being apathetic, you're being conformist, and you will never truly be free. So if you're someone who knows that you're overwhelmed, you're busy, that you need to be truly productive, but you're too busy to even think about a program that would help you being more productive, I'm sorry, then you're not truly free. You are part of that victim society I talked about. So as I mentioned earlier in this show, on July 17th at 1 p.m. Eastern, there's a link in this post, kurtmercadante.com/productive webinar. I'm going to be holding a free live webinar on how to become a productivity superhero. Yes, it involves working in your superpower zone. It involves being intentional about each and every day. How do you want your day to turn out? I mentioned this on my show on Monday. I want to get you to the point where, first of all, you set key outcomes. If you want to attend Johnny or Janie's recital or soccer game on Thursday, then that's a key outcome and you set up your day accordingly. And if you don't, I want you to realize that's because of a deliberate choice you made. And I want you to look your son or daughter in the eye, and instead of saying, sorry, Johnny or Janie, I missed your recital or soccer game because I had to work late, I want you to be honest with yourself. I want you to be honest with your kid. And I want you to say this, sorry, Johnny or Janie, I chose to work late. Because part of living a life of freedom is taking responsibility for the choices you make. It's realizing that your day, your week, your year, your life is the product of the deliberate choices you make. But if you want to keep outsourcing your responsibility, your accountability, your intellectual firepower to blame on excuses, then continue to do so. But I got news for you. You will never then truly productive, and you will not be truly free. With that, I want to take any questions you have. I know we're getting a number of comments here. Hey, Benson, how's it going? What's up, Ben? How you doing? How's everyone going? Thanks, Matt. Any questions for me? Collier, that's awesome. Enjoy the freedom on your day off. But here's the deal. Don't just wait for your days off to be free. And if you're truly living a life of alignment, you're free every single day. And you don't become a product of simply what your boss is telling you. Because here's another thing. At one point, I was not living free and I had my own business. I could have chosen my days off whenever I wanted to. But you know what? I based my day on inputs. I built a prison of bullshit instead of actually building a business. And yes, it had to do with apathy, and it certainly had to do with conformity. Because you know what happened when I launched my first business? I was making money right off the bat. I had 3 or 4 clients. I'm a very efficient worker. And I got all my stuff done by 11 o'clock or noon. Now, I could have spent the rest of the day doing what it is that fulfills me. But you know what I did? I felt guilty because people would make comments. Must be nice not to have to work. All those passive aggressive bullshit comments from people who were probably jealous of my lifestyle got to me. The conformity got to me. And so you know what I did? I filled the rest of my day with bullshit inputs. I worked into the night, filling my day with bullshit. Until finally I realized it wasn't worth it. I had my own business. I started my own business because I wanted to be free. And instead of free, I had built this prison for myself as an entrepreneur. You know what I did? I fired half my clients. I raised my prices. I cut what I was doing. I outsourced and delegated my weaknesses. And then and only then did I push my business above 7 figures. Because I started being intentional about what I wanted, what type of business I wanted, what type of clients I wanted to work with. And I gained that time back. I became truly productive. But again, you have to be honest with yourself. Are you truly intentional, or are you actually apathetic? Are you giving in to conformity, which can lead you to do things that aren't in your best interest, that can lead you to base your day, base your life on bullshit inputs? Or are you standing alone, standing on your truth and how you want to live it, and setting outcomes that matter to you and finding the straightest, shortest, simplest route to those outcomes? That's true productivity. That's true freedom.